Hello, my name is Marissa Gibson, and I am one of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas' students in the Bachelor of Fine Arts program for the year 2020. I view myself as a mixed media artist primarily working in ceramics. My work is defined by my identity as a queer mixed woman. My background is a major influence on my art. I am half black, a quarter Thai, and a quarter German, so I've always struggled to find a suitable balance in my identity. However, through the program, I was able to understand how my heritage has impacted my art. I gravitate towards mixed media pieces because I like the freedom of using unconventional materials to create something cohesive. For me, mixed media art is exciting to make because it feels more organic and spontaneous, and it also allows me to exaggerate and consistently change my style. To gain a greater understanding of my work, I want to briefly discuss the development of my art. This is one of my early ceramic pieces, titled Pig Dad, that I created back in 2015. This sculpture initially had no meaning. However, looking back, Pig Dad was made because of an impulsive decision to shock, yet entice viewers. The details are what made this piece successful. The pig itself is ceramic, its body is covered in food and my own hair that I cut from my body. The couch is constructed out of wooden dowels and fabric. Pig Dad was the first piece that incorporated various materials, and since I found the application intriguing, I wanted to expand this technique to other projects too. During the same year, I created a series of organic baby clusters that featured different mediums combined together. This one specifically was made with spray paint and hard candy. From late 2015 to 2017, I faced a large gap in my art. I stopped creating ceramic work almost entirely and primarily worked on cardboard and in sketchbooks. I had no direction when it came to my art, but I knew that I wanted to create pieces that resonated with my identity. It was during this time I became more attracted to bold, obnoxious, and evocative work. During this period, too, emotions felt muted to me, and as a result, I wanted my art to be amplified. In my life, everything felt distorted, and I wanted my art to reflect that too. Every emotion felt everlasting, so I tried my best to keep my art fluid. And through this, I discovered I was drawn to abstract details and figures. These sketches were primarily worked in pencil, but I would add different materials such as nail polish paint or ink. My subject matter became stylized and predominantly featured complex emotions and playful visual engagement with the viewer. My hiatus with ceramics was important to my growth. The art I was making during this time helped me question who I was for the first time in my life. I wondered, how do I talk about being queer? How do I balance my identity? Why do I depict unappetizing subjects? Little did I know these constant questions in my head would be because of my own restrictions on myself. For a long time, I felt that my art needed to represent other people when it should have been representing me. Unconsciously, I consistently made self portraits that were kind of like mirrors to my identity, feelings, and desires. I just didn't know how to describe what was being reflected back to me. When I entered the BFA program in 2019, I knew what type of art I liked, but I couldn't explain why I made the things that I did. I knew I wanted my art to talk about being mixed race, my queerness, and taboo, but I didn't know how to execute that work without feeling overwhelmed by the controversy that's attached to those topics. While I was investigating how to have conversations about the subject matter I was interested in, I figured out how I wanted my art to look visually. I wanted it to be bright, erotic, and eye-catching. This mixed media digital painting, called Gal Pals, invoked everything I physically wanted to see in the pieces I was starting to make. This was the beginning of my work developing into super saturated colors. A couple months later, I realized that the art I was making was fun to look at, but the content was shallow. It wasn't pushing the envelope enough for me, and I refused to censor myself, which is why I don't shy away from making art that features crude taste. However, I needed to find a balance between initial concept versus the end product. I had these ideas that I thought were golden, but then after the piece was finished, I felt dissatisfied because I desired more. This craving for more created friction in my method of work. I was at the point where I was bottling all my frustrations because the mediums I was using weren't working for me the way they had done so before. However, I realized the biggest frustration was that the size I was working at started to become minuscule. I wanted to confront the viewer not only with subject matter anymore, but I wanted to suffocate their senses. This painting called Flesh was inspired by those frustrations and the physical frustrations I was feeling at the time. This painting pushed me out of my comfort zone because I was taking new risks with the style and moving to larger scale work. I focused on ambiguous and stimulating work, and while I felt this direction in my painting and drawing was finally successful again, I made the decision to concentrate my energy into making sculptures instead of 2D art. By returning to ceramics, I had an easier time translating the exaggerated qualities I wanted to produce. And by using clay, I was able to bring my ideas to life and have them exist in reality, versus a painting that would always stay two-dimensional. At this point, I found my stride in ceramics. With these new pieces, I was able to develop my craft and found out that I had the ability to create visually peculiar works that I had been craving for. This sculpture, Meat Hammer, is an example of how my works have subtly developed erotic undertones. Towards the end of the semester, my ceramic work became heavily involved in body distortion. Due to my experiences, I was able to link body distortion to my own queerness and to my heritage. This piece, entitled They, represented how people can exist outside of the binary spectrum. I wanted the bust to be gender ambiguous, but I kept identifiable features such as nipples and body hair, so it could retain relatability. For me, this piece truly encapsulated my feelings of wanting a work to just exist as it does and doesn't question who or what it's meant to be. They was one of my most successful pieces this semester, not only because of the subject matter, but because of the size as well. It's the largest ceramic piece I've made so far. What I've learned from my experiences is that not everything needs to make sense from the get-go. You should be allowed to make work without knowing what it means from the start. My work is able to stand independently because of this, and it conveys that life shouldn't always be seen as beautiful and smooth because those weird and shameless parts are equally relevant too. Thank you.